Hello, and welcome to Passing Period. I'm your host, Mr. Meyerowitz, and today I'll answer another question from a current or former student of mine. I really need props for my show, like a bag I can dip into and make the whole thing seem more spontaneous. I know, give me a profession, a location, and a funny word. Or maybe I could get some student-made animations to complement my video essays. Now, students, if you're listening, come join my Passing Period production team. I can pay you in Simpson stickers or in action figurines, like so. Okay, today's question comes from Brandon. Again, okay. You know, you're America's favorite teacher when the same four names keep popping up. He writes, quote, "How do existentialist ideas show themselves in modern day media? And how can creators in our own current media environment break the corporate bonds and express their own authentic selves and material?" What a question. It's almost like I planted this one to attract more students to my capstone course called Existentialism and the Absurd. Thanks for making my day and inspiring America to learn more about existential philosophy from my parents' generation. Existentialism gained prominence during and following the Second World War. Existentialists like Sartre, Camus, and Beauvoir asked, how do we make something of our own existence without being relegated to the essence or role and identity that systems of power have constructed for us? For each of these writers, the Industrial Revolutions and the growth of nationalism and imperialism, decades of brutal conflict and totalitarian rule brought about a crisis of consciousness. These writers asked not only who am I, but what have traditional authorities made me become? They challenged individuals to reassert their own authenticity and to pursue their own meaningful aims in life. After all, since life is tenuous and quite short and could be vaporized in an instant by a nuclear weapon or transformed into a tool to suit an authoritarian's agenda, we must rebel and affirm existence and deny our socially or politically constructed essence. There were, of course, issues with that philosophy from the first. To begin with, we have been conditioned to buy into certain models of moral and physical perfection, and these are tough to shake in the name of some abstract concept of authenticity. Michelangelo's David had loomed over weak mortals for many centuries and projected images of power, heroism, faith, and duty that had warped and homogenized individuals' conception of selfhood. Other authorities had constructed similar models of humanity, a one size fits all notion of how to be human, how to be a man, how to be a woman, how to serve God or king, and how to extract value from everyone and every place. Of course, there have been revolts against these monochromatic and one dimensional forms of man, whether in secular reform, suffrage movements, or liberal or colonial revolts, and all of these ideals had proven quite flimsy against the catastrophes of world war and nuclear annihilation. It was time for a new conception of the human, according to the existentialists, one who would make his own meaning, scale his own mountains, embody his own truths and values, and resist any pigeonholing by corporate and political masters. But there were other flaws with that boldly individualistic approach. It didn't seem to apply to peoples that sought to restore traditional communal societies over and against individual and capitalist systems that had been imposed worldwide. It was also impractical in a world that had already assigned little or no value to marginal groups such as women, peoples of color, and the poor. If existentialism wasn't exactly a bootstrap philosophy, it also didn't show us how to affirm selfhood in a world that privileged oneself over all others. Existentialists sought to undo centuries of indoctrination, prostration, and submission to towering institutions and systems of value like patriarchy, nationalism, and the free market. But that's all well and good to be a cigarette toting French philosopher, espousing new goals for the individual at cafes and bars. But what about common people trying to scrape by in a world that valued GDP and nuclear escalation over self-actualization? Existentialists seldom gave reasonable and replicable answers to that question, but the absurdists of that same post-war era had a few ideas. For absurdists, the whole operating system of our civilized lives was out of whack, since it offered the semblance of stability, order, and purpose against the backdrop of a swirling, meaningless, and chaotic cosmos. For millennia, societies and their leaders had built domes around human activity. These domes limited and regulated us by assigning value to our work, establishing laws to tailor our behavior, and constructing hierarchies and bureaucracies to carry out complex tasks. But these are utterly unnatural and out of sync with the fundamental workings of the universe that is almost entirely unknown, is seldom predictable, and does not exist to serve human goals. The absurd is this dichotomy between civilized and artificial order on the one hand, and chaotic and natural disorder on the other. If we blow the roof off of the dome, we will see just how microscopic and meaningless our tiny social and political machines are against the yawning void of the blank and starry sea that consumes us. For absurdists, we must start again. Play with the forms that have been handed to us and generate our own meaning and liberty, even if they don't align with the goals and beliefs of our neighbors. Absurdists often deconstruct language, relationships, ideologies, and other connecting fibers and tissues between self and other to show audiences how alone we truly are in the universe when we strip away all of the conventions and formalities that we've been instructed to use. Once they've uprooted or dismantled these supposedly permanent systems or demonstrated how tyrannical and lopsided they really are, they force their characters to confront their own solitude and then develop plans of action. Absurd heroes are ones who redefine concepts from their own spirit or conviction. Having rejected the formula handed down from on high, they invent their own idea of humanity, liberty, or even God, no matter who may ridicule or aim to stop them. Absurdists dismiss a reality that was constructed for and pre-existed them in favor of one that they control or can assert their authenticity and agency within. What looks like nonsensical behavior to an observer who has imbibed standardized bourgeois values for a lifetime actually provides nourishment and self-affirmation for the absurd hero because he's acting on his own terms, not on the ones prescribed by the authorities whose power hinges on a polished, preserved, but fundamentally fabricated order. So where do these ideas emerge in modern-day media? Wherever the formula is rejected. In 1917, Marcel Duchamp installed dismantled urinals signed R. Mutt in art galleries to force his viewers to question the meaning of art and whether it has any particular essence or whether any text or porcelain figure in a particular context can become art. After all, those curves and apertures are quite lovely, even if they are mass-produced. 70 years later, Matt Groening turned his Simpsons family and community yellow to grab our attention while channel surfing. The novelty and the strangeness of their color stood in stark contrast to the hyper-processed Leave It to Beaver schlock on every other station. And 25 years after that, Banksy constructed Disneyland, a self-styled amusement park that forced its viewers to see some of the most egregious abuses of global capitalism and media sensationalism in vivid Disney-style landmarks and rides. Each of these performances flirted with the absurd by putting our socially constructed expectations or desires on a collision course with their underlying mechanics, and then forcing us to see the artifice of the operating system we all live in and that props up our aesthetic values. If the content aims to confuse or puzzle its viewer, provoke them into action or reaction, and not just, fog your gaze like a tranquilizing kitten video on TikTok, you may be dialoguing with the absurd. If the content reveals the lies and fraud that have set us on a one-way track to success and prosperity and urged us to stop, smell the roses, ask questions, turn back and see, truly see where others are going and why, you may begin to challenge your essence, or which is installed in you like a microchip, and rethink the meaning and dimensions of your existence instead. For existentialists and absurdists, there is no answer to who am I. We are never stable. We are always evolving, adapting, questing, learning, becoming, synchronizing to the chaos that engulfs us. Thank you for visiting Passing Period. See you next time. Toodaloo!